Hi, it's Dwyer. It's July the 16th, 2019. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, to me, the real market for gambling in baseball, football, and basketball is the futures market, because you're going to get leverage on very good teams. Now, we here aren't trying to outsmart the casino. I'm not trying to be more clever than the casino in this video. All I'm trying to do is to take advantage of what the casino is giving me. The bookmakers know that they have to skew the odds because of public perception. So that tells me that there's a bargain to be had. Right now in the futures market, there are glaring bargains. And understand, your goal here isn't necessarily to pick the team that's going to win it all. No, it's an odds play. Your goal is to lock in odds on a team that you know are going to change over time, so you can hedge the play later with your expected winnings. In other words, your goal here is to take an undervalued team. The team could be undervalued for a host of reasons. It's just to take an undervalued team, so when we get to the playoffs next year, and this team is in the playoffs with a high seed, right? The rest of the world, just based on the seedings, is going to realize that your team is undervalued. Also, you'll realize that because of the odds you get during the summer before the season starts, that you actually have money to play with, expected winnings that'll allow you to bet on the other side of the play. So, understand, it's just simple math. Nothing more than that. The NBA Finals is going to have one team from the Western Conference and one team from the Eastern Conference. Right? It necessarily has to. In other words, each conference is going to have 50% of the NBA Finals. But that's not how the futures to win it all are priced. Because the casinos understand that everybody views the West as stronger than the East. They understand that, I believe it's 4 of the top 5 MVP vote getters this last year were all from the Western Conference. In fact, I believe it's even bigger than that. 5 of the top 6 players were all from the West. Right? Everyone knows LeBron James is now in the Western Conference. Everyone knows Kawhi Leonard is now in the Western Conference. So, while the rest of the world is looking at the Los Angeles Clippers to make the NBA Finals at the shortest odds on the board, a plus 300, and across town in Los Angeles, another group's looking at the Los Angeles Lakers at a plus 400. Right? We here have figured out that only one team from the West is going to make the NBA Finals. The place for value is the Eastern Conference, folks, because the Eastern Conference is guaranteed a slot in the Western Conference Finals. Not only that, in the NBA Finals. Not only that, the power structure in the East is more unbalanced. So let's be real here. The Clippers are going off at a plus 300. I'm just going to read the board. The Lakers are going off at a plus 400. The Milwaukee Bucks are going off at a plus 500. The Houston Rockets are going off at a plus 700. The Philadelphia 76ers are going off at a plus 800. After that, it's Golden State plus 1,200, Utah plus 1,600, Denver plus 1,800. Right? So understand, of the top 8 teams, in terms of the betting board right now, the top 8, only 2 of them are from the Eastern Conference. Can you believe that? The other 6 are from the West. Right? The play I like, there are 2 teams I like here. Folks, they're both from the East. The Milwaukee Bucks at plus 500. Folks, the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs last year. LeBron's never played a regular season game for Frank Vogel, the coach, or with Anthony Davis. The team's just been scotch taped together. Let's be real too on LeBron. 35 is a perilous age. A lot of great players never make it to 35 years of age in the NBA. Now, LeBron missed time last year with an injured groin. Folks, if he tears that groin again, it's going to be a full-blown crisis. His situation is going to be career-threatening. The injury is going to be viewed as chronic. I know everyone likes to think about what could go right. AD, one of the best players in the league, with LeBron, and they have the same agent, and they just added DeMarcus Cousins, AD's buddy from New Orleans, who AD knows, right? Danny Green, didn't he just pick up a ring? You know, that locker room's going to have multiple guys who have rings, right? Because doesn't LeBron have a few rings? Right? The Magic problem, hey, that's in the background now. Not only that, if Frank Vogel doesn't cut it, we have Lionel Hollins on the bench. We have Jason Kidd on the bench. Right? The replacement could be in-house. I get it. Right? Just understand, Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis are not signed for the season after this one. If the team starts slow, folks, it's the Western Conference, for crying out loud. They're going to be playing rough teams. If the Lakers start slow, you're going to have a full-blown panic. People are going to revisit the fact that Kawhi Leonard signed with an LA team and it wasn't the Lakers. When's the last time that happened? Right? Superstar picking the other team. People are going to start to ask themselves, whoa, wait a moment. I thought Paul George wanted to come to LA. Didn't he pass us up to play with OKC? And now he's back in LA and he's not with us. Folks are going to take out their hand. They're going to say, over the last 5 years, how many times have we made the playoffs? Haven't the Charlotte Hornets made the playoffs more than we have over the last 5 years? Right? And so understand, the Clippers, bunch of stars, no question about it. Kawhi, load management. Right? He's not the kind of guy who plays through a lot of injuries. Right? I think the team knows they're going to get about 60 games from him. Right? Are you sure? Two seasons ago, it didn't work. He leaves San Antonio and goes to Canada. It was just 2 seasons ago. Right? Are you sure it works now with Paul George? Right? Let's go a little bit further down the line. The Houston Rockets. I personally feel that James Harden is the best player in the National Basketball Association. He's led the association in wins above replacement for 4 of the last 5 seasons. I'm also a fan of Russell Westbrook's. Right? Wow. You know, Westbrook and KD weren't able to get over the hump. Westbrook and Paul George weren't able to get over the hump. Am I sure? In a Mike D'Antoni offense where certain players have the green light all the time, Harden does, Eric Gordon does, am I sure that Russell Westbrook is going to fit in? right? Then you get to the Philadelphia 76ers. Then after them, Golden State, KD gone. Andre Iguodala gone. Klay Thompson gone at least until next January. Folks, those were three key contributors to the team the last few years. Did I mention Sean Livingston's no longer with them? Right? Then you have Utah. I'll agree, Utah's undervalued, but then you have Utah, then you have Denver. So understand, and Denver, by the way, let's think that through. They were the 2 seed last year, for crying out loud. The 2 seed. In other words, these rankings, this odds board that casinos have put out now in July is just assuming that the Clippers, the Lakers, Houston, they all jump the 2 seed. They all jump the team that played Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, the Portland Trailblazers. Right? So as the West fights among themselves and as there's carnage all over the place, as you see good teams fall by the wayside, right? Joker, Jokic, Kawhi, LeBron, let's face it, none of them might win the conference, right? James Harden might win the conference. What I want people to consider doing is what I'm doing. Walking into the sports book, looking at the Milwaukee Bucks at a plus 500. Weren't they the 1 seed in the entire league last year? Not just the conference, the entire league. Isn't Giannis coming back? Didn't they just re-sign Chris Middleton? Didn't they re-sign Brook Lopez? Isn't George Hill coming back? Folks, forgive me, but it sounds like the band is back together, doesn't it? I know Brogdon left, but they picked up Robin Lopez, who is the shot blocker of the Lopez twins, right? Understand, too, Robin Lopez, excellent defender, is going to really help Giannis underneath the basket. Also ask yourself, how many teams in the East can compete with them? Didn't Boston just lose Kyrie Irving? Right? Are you that certain that Kemba Walker in his first year in Boston is going to be a seamless fit? Understand, Giannis has been in Milwaukee. Right? I kind of know the level of production with the superstar in town, right? Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. Hey, I think Kyrie Irving is an excellent player. No KD. Let's say KD pushes it to come back from the Achilles tear like Kobe did. And let's say KD returns sometime early next year, right? Wow. KD and Kyrie would be just learning to play together on the same team in the regular season for the first time, right? The coach would be just learning how to cope with both guys. I'll agree. On paper, Brooklyn has a lot of talent, but how could they possibly compete with the chemistry Milwaukee has right now? So let me just say, Toronto, isn't it over for this year? How do you lose Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green? On a team that barely squeaked through, right? How do you lose those guys? Keep in mind, they barely beat Philly. Barely. How do you lose those two guys and compete? So, of all of these bets on the board, I'm not saying the Bucks are a stronger team than, let's say, the Lakers or the Clippers, although they might be. But the Bucks certainly, coming out of the East, have a better chance of making the NBA Finals. And you mean to tell me that I'm getting them at a plus 500? In other words, the Clippers, much more expensive as at a plus 300, right? The Lakers more expensive. You mean to tell me I get a team with a better chance of getting to the NBA Finals and I'm getting them at a better price? And the team is experienced? No need to put a bow on the package. One of my plays in this video is Milwaukee at plus 500. They've had a tremendous offseason just keeping their players. Don't overlook that. The other team that I think has to be included on your list of teams is the other team I feel that has a great chance coming out of the East. And that's the team that lost their series against Toronto on that Kawhi Leonard last-second shot. That's the Philadelphia 76ers. Let me just say this. In terms of great passing big men, I'll agree. Jokic of Denver is the standard. But if you rank the passing abilities of big men, you'll realize that Joel Embiid and his new teammate, Al Horford, right, are among the very best passing big men in the game. Right? Add them in with Ben Simmons, the big man who's their point guard. And you have a combination of passing and height that other teams just can't match. Think about the average height of Simmons, Horford, and Embiid. By the way, they re-signed Tobias Harris. I know people are going to say, hey, JJ Redick's gone. They picked up Josh Richardson. Understand, he's going to be 26 next year. Josh Richardson from Miami. Last year, he averaged 16.6 points per game. Right? He had an effective field goal percentage of 49.2. His free throw percentage, 86%. 86%. And of course, his player efficiency rating was 14. I think Philadelphia, a team with playoff experience, that's been through trials and tribulations, that has one of the best big men in the game, that has young Ben Simmons, who is not going to play for Australia's team this summer. I'm guessing that means he's in the gym working on a jumper, working on his free throw shooting, right? The ceiling, I understand. People say, oh, Ben Simmons doesn't respect the game. He hasn't improved his game, right? Just understand that Ben Simmons today has a player efficiency rating of around 20. Just understand that Ben Simmons' ceiling is monumental, right? It's monumental. So I look at Philly and I just think to myself, wow, they're not going to be tested by Brooklyn, at least not this year. They're not going to be tested by Toronto. The only team, in my opinion, that stands in their way between them and the Eastern Conference crown are the Milwaukee Bucks. And you mean to tell me that I get the 76ers at a plus 800? In other words, more than 2 times the odds at which I would get the Los Angeles Clippers. Understand, when you're looking at these lists, right, the futures list, it's a mistake to ask yourself the question, okay, what's the ranking on the actual talent that the teams have? Because there's a structure by which teams make it to the finals. And so when you have a tough conference like the West, where regardless of how tough the conference is, only one team is going to make the NBA Finals, you can't have 6 of the top 8 teams be Western Conference teams. Milwaukee in the East has a much better shot of making the NBA Finals than any Western team. Gamblers should have figured that out by the fact that Milwaukee won 60 games last year. Right? I would say Philly, if they continue their development, and hasn't it been a steady climb for Philly? Right? Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, they're older now. That experience that they lacked before, they now have it. I think Philly has at least as good a shot of making the NBA Finals out of the East as any team does out of the West. Again, I'm not saying Philly's better than all Western teams. What I'm saying is when you have a tough Western Conference where the teams are going to kill each other off, go with the teams likely to win the Eastern Conference that actually have, due to injury and other factors, an edge on the teams around them. Toronto just won the East. I believe they're out of the mix. There's an opening there. Let's think it through. Who did they beat? Philly, Milwaukee. I like Philly at a plus 800 to win the NBA championship outright. I like Milwaukee at a plus 500 to win the NBA championship outright. Understand what this means. If Philly faces Milwaukee for the Eastern Conference title, I can just sit back knowing that I already have a team in the finals because I'm on both sides of that play. So then at that point, knowing that if, we'll take the shorter odds team, if Milwaukee gets into the NBA Finals, I'll know I have them at a plus 500. So then at that point, I can throw money on the Western Conference winner and make money regardless of who wins the NBA Finals. If it's Philly who comes out of the East, then I'm even dealing with more gas. I'm dealing with a plus 800. So I could then throw even more money on whoever they're playing and have money on both sides of the play in the NBA Finals. I believe that's how you want to play futures right now. Understand, though, anytime you make a futures bet months before the start of the season, and by the way, I believe that's the time to bet because that's when you have the most misinformation and the most misled gamblers out there, right? Everyone is drunk off the draft. People seem to feel that this kid who's less than 6'6", who averaged less than 3 assists per game in college, Zion Williamson, is somehow going to be a force with the Pelicans, right? Right now, hype is leading the way. It's in a situation like this where you have all this hype that you can step in and notice that a bunch of Western Conference teams have been listed among the top of the futures board when the Eastern Conference is easier to win. To sum up, I like the Milwaukee Bucks at plus 500 at these odds to win the NBA championship. Why? Because I think they have a better shot at making the NBA Finals than any team from the West. Right? I also like the Philadelphia 76ers at plus 800. Why? Folks, they added Al Horford. In terms of great passing big men, Philly now has 2 of them. A lot of teams simply will not be able to deal with Philly's size when you add in Ben Simmons, or with Philly's depth, right? Understand they have Tobias Harris. He just got a big contract with the team, right? Also, of course, the team with the Joel Embiid, who was not 100%, gave Toronto all they could handle. Those 2 teams sit atop of the Eastern Conference. they don't have the competition for conference supremacy that a team like the Clippers has, right? Again, the Clippers weren't even in the conference finals last year, folks. I mean, the stars of the Clippers haven't even played together in the regular season, right? The Lakers, it's even worse than that. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. The coach is new, right? Anthony Davis didn't make the playoffs last year. So just think it through. Milwaukee plus 500, 76ers plus 800. Understand, too, you're going to have even more hedging opportunities because what's going to happen, in my opinion, is that the odds are going to shift, right? People are going to look at these teams that haven't played together yet. And some of these teams that are ranked very highly are going to slip versus other teams. I have to tell you, if you're into player efficiency ratings, wins above replacement, and things like that, right? It's incredible that Rudy Gobert's Utah Jazz, and understand, Rudy Gobert is among the best players in the league according to player efficiency rating, right? Just look him up. This is a premier defensive big man. It's stunning that that team would add Mike Conley, underrated player who does very well on certain metrics, like player efficiency rating, right? You have Donovan Mitchell on that team. You have a lot of other guys on that team. That's a team that makes the playoffs every year. And you mean to tell me that somehow they're going off at 18-1 when the Clippers are going off at 3-1, right? If that doesn't shock you, then the fact that Portland made the Western Conference Finals last year, and the last time I looked, they still had one of the very best backcourts in the game, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, and they just added Hassan Whiteside, right? Somehow Portland is going off at 33-1, a plus 3,300, right? So understand, these odds are going to change. But I personally don't think, absent injury, that you're going to get better odds than a plus 500 on Milwaukee and a plus 800 on the Philadelphia 76ers. If the Bucks take the court and people realize that the reigning MVP, Giannis, is still Giannis, and realize that the Lopez twins play well together. I watched them all through their college career. Those two guys played very well together, right? Once the world realizes that Robin Lopez adds a lot to that team, right? Good luck getting a plus 500, especially when people look at the brackets and realize that really nothing is stopping the Bucks, who should be hungry, right? They were the 1 seed. They didn't make the NBA Finals. Nothing stopping the Bucks from becoming the 1 seed again. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I know there are going to be a lot of different views. I know I'm going to hear about LeBron and AD, Kawhi and PG-13, right? I'm in the Bay Area. I'm sure I'll also hear about Steph, D'Lo, etc. Let it rip. I look forward to the comments. Just understand, our goal here is to beat the casino and to help other gamblers. Thanks for stopping by.